attraction towards new experiences is powerful. Alienware gear isn't made to resist that pull. It's made to accelerate it, to transport you to new places where you can embrace difference and leave familiar behind, bringing you ever closer to the ultimate experience. See you on the other side. attraction towards new experiences is powerful. Alienware gear isn't made to resist that pull. It's made to accelerate it, to transport you to new places where you can embrace difference and leave familiar behind, bringing you ever closer to the ultimate experience. See you on the other side. The attraction towards new experiences is powerful. Alienware gear isn't made to resist that pull. It's made to accelerate it, to transport you to new places where you can embrace difference and leave familiar behind, bringing you ever closer to the ultimate experience. See you on the other side.
Hi everyone, I'm Francesco, and here with me there's Marco. You probably can recognize him from Tea Time and Geek Recipe.
From all the different shows, yeah.
How you doing, Marco?
All good, yeah. All
good.
excited about
excited
this.
for today?
Yeah.
I hadn't slept last night.
Did you?
No, not at
I
all.
thought it was about a football match that you didn't sleep.
No, but let's avoid this topic. We can already move on to another one. So today we are at a really special event for us, for Slytherin, for the STARGATE. For the STARGATE franchise. We are really happy and we worked a lot to have this event. And I think we can start introducing our special guest for the day. So, with us, there's Martin Wood, director and co-producer of lots of episodes of the original series, the movie, and everything. How are you, Martin? All good?
I'm great. Thanks for bringing me out here to do this.
That was short notice, was it?
It was a week ago, but it's Milano, and it's like, come to Milano. Yes. Okay.
Yes. It was just
Good
like
idea.
Milan trip was enough to come here to talk with us.
And you guys, and the two of you guys.
Thanks,
It's yes, absolutely.
The thing, Martin, we were talking about earlier was like Saturday is the 29th anniversary of the release of the first STARGATE movie.
Yeah.
And we got you, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff from the past, but today is really very much about the present of STARGATE.
Absolutely.
Right?
You guys are continuing a legacy that started back on that day. The fact that you're the next iteration of what STARGATE gets to be is incredible. I mean, it's so amazing to people like me who've sort of been there from once the movie had completed and they decided to make a series. I got in on day one. I was actually prepping the second episode that was going to happen after the pilot. And so the first day of shooting, I was there, standing on set, watching what was happening with the pilot of the series. And at that point, nobody would have ever said it would get this big and this far. And certainly, finally being able to get a game out that has MGM behind it and all that kind of stuff, rather than something that's just sort of put together that is out in the ether. This is going to be great to have this as the next level.
I think the cool thing about it's just weird that this is the first STARGATE game. It is
very weird it's taken this long.
It's taking quite a long time, but the idea of making a game about STARGATE was coming from parts of our team were fans of the series, right? So the whole project was very much started because of someone loving the original material. Mm-hmm. So right now we've got a demo out. You guys can go and play it. It's on Steam. If you go on the Steam page, you can play the demo. The game will release officially on the 12th of December this year, so this is sort of the first step of the next chapter in the Stargate franchise. But before we talk about that, we've got you here. How we're planning to structure the today's event.
So basically today it will be like a full celebration about Stargate universe, the community of Stargate. We will not like have so many technical focus on our video game. We would like to hear stories from actual people that lived the Stargate back in the days. Martin will not be our only guest for today. We have other special guests which we have the pleasure to have with us today. And we will talk about Stargate. How was Stargate back in the days, how the legacy it's building up to these days. I would love to hear from the community, from the chat. We have already selected few questions for our guests, but please in the chat drop any question for Martin and to our special guests that at this point I think we can introduce them.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So alongside with Martin, I have the pleasure to have with us Michael Shanks, actor from the original series of Stargate. Hi Michael, how you doing?
Good. I am Amanda Tapping.
Lots has changed since the first episode.
We have Darren Sumner, owner and managing editor of GateTour.net, the biggest community of Stargate out there. Hi Darren, thank you for being with us. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me. This is really exciting to get to talk about the game and get to talk about Stargate. Michael, you and me did not get a ticket to Milan, though. I'm a little salty about that.
No, I mean I got all dressed up to take the plane, and then so.
We're sure we can like pay a Milan visit in the future for you guys.
We'll
as well.
fix that. We'll
fix that. And with us also Robert Brown, the writer of Stargate Timekeepers. Hi Robert, how you doing? Thanks for being with us.
Hi, thank you. I'm very well. And yourself?
All good, all good. We're really excited to have like all these passionate fans of Stargate talking and discussing like this beautiful topic, which is, of course, is Stargate. So, how do we want to start?
I want to start with the end, Martin. Mm-hmm. What was the last thing you did on the Stargate franchise in your like entire career?
The last thing that I did...
So your farewell to Stargate, when was
right.
it? And was it like a farewell? Was it something that you knew that was going to be the last thing?
What happened was I started doing Sanctuary, the TV show Sanctuary. And so just before Atlantis ended, I left that. I'd left SG-1 in order to do Atlantis. The studios were literally attached.
Okay.
So, and the offices were the same. So I never left my office. I just switched shows, and we took up a lot of space that used to be SG-1s, and started into Atlantis. Did Atlantis for 4 years, and then Amanda and Damian Kindler and I left to go and do Sanctuary.
Okay.
So that was before Universe started. So the one thing I didn't have any contact with was Universe.
Okay. Was it something that you knew that was going to be your last thing on Stargate? Did you know that the legacy was still going to be strong for the future? What was your feelings when leaving the?
I think that the time I knew it was over for me was when Shanks came up and said, "Can I have your office?"
Okay.
And he asked in a way that I couldn't say no,
okay,
because he had movers there. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm leaving, he gets to stay. So I think that I didn't know exactly what that last moment was going to be. I think that we had plans to go and deal with Sanctuary, and what ended up happening was we ended up doing Continuum after that.
Okay.
So I did come back for Continuum. I came back for actually a couple of episodes too while we were doing Sanctuary, and just to finish up some Atlantis, and then we did Stargate Continuum, and so that was Stargate Continuum. I knew was the last thing I would do with it. So.
And yeah. Shanks, you're being pulled into this very last minute. So I'm going to be like pretending like we've agreed on the questions, but we didn't.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, one of the things that strike me with, talking to Martin and him calling you last minute and Amanda couldn't make it, but, the whole thing is like, it's almost like friends talking to each other about stuff, 20 years later, 15 years later, and so on. How did you build this? Is it normal in, TV movies that, you keep in this kind of family type, friendly family type approach all the time?
No. Okay. A few of us have been able to maintain strong contact from sort of maintaining the same area code, but also to be fair, I think a lot of us have an affinity for each other just because of the time spent. When you spend that much time with people and go through as much as we went through. We spent more time with each other than we did with most of our families, and so you become close, and we kind of have been through the battles together, and came out the other side as really good friends. And so anytime one of these guys picks up the phone and gives me a shout, if I'm available, I'm there. So yeah, it's interesting because I've been on a lot of shows, and you make friendships there, but they don't always last. And with Stargate, it's always seemed to stand the test of time.
And the fact that we all had kids around the same time too, because we all grew up. We were all babies when we started. Michael was the babiest baby, but he was the youngest of us all. But we all, within the same year or 2 years, we all had kids. And my daughter is really good friends with Michael's daughter and with Amanda's daughter. And my son is really good friends with his son. And the spacing of this was eerily the same. So that we not only see each other, because we live very close to each other, but also we do Halloween together. We'd have Christmas time where we'd be in each other's pockets because I'd go over and pick up my son, and they'd come over and pick up theirs, so we spend a lot of time without thinking about where we started. We've just been friends for so long now.
Why? So why isn't there a Kardashian-style Stargate thing where you'll?
They've tried. It never works because Michael insists on nudity. And I'm not built for it. So, yeah.
just so obvious. I mean, it's so like.
Yeah. They've tried so many times.
There's so many places I could go with this. I'm just not going to start.
Oh gosh. All right. I guess we have to get a bit more serious now. Do we have any question you wanna start with?
Okay, let's start a few questions. I got a question for Martin. What was the most technically challenging episode of Stargate you directed? What was the easiest? So the easiest and the most difficult one.
Some of the hardest, because there were a number that were very, very difficult. Very difficult. One was a matter of time. And Michael will remember why, because they had to climb sideways across the gate. And in order to do that, we had to tip things up like this. And there was, any time that we've had to change gravity around, and Darren, you can help me out with this. What was the one when Michael, when you came back, the first time we actually met you back, what was it called? When we had the tilting room with you and Rick.
Abyss.
Abyss, right, yeah.
Abyss, yeah, when Rick is in the prison cell.
Yeah, that was tough too, just because we were in a prison cell, and I had to get Rick to lift Michael up, and he just was not ready for that. Do you remember that, Michael? I'm holding on to Michael. Michael is completely prone like this, and I'm going, so like this, Rick, and Rick's like, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. And I'm holding Michael like this. Michael's staying as stiff as he can. I'm like, you hold him like this, because as that's happening, we're tipping the room, and he'll be upright then. And he just, so that one was just, that screwed around with your mind a little bit, because you had to figure out what plane you were on in that. Matter of Time was another one, just because there was so much physics involved in that. Okay. I think another really super technical one, which involved Michael in a very odd way, was the puppets for the 200th episode. The 200th episode was so much fun in so many different ways because these guys got to dress up, in all these different costumes and, the Wizard of Oz things, everything that we did. But for me, the puppets were difficult because we used the Team America puppets there. And what I had to do was I had these guys live action shoot the scene.
All right.
And I'd lock the camera off. And then I just use that background. There we are. That's having Matt Damon as my stand-in. He was Michael's stand-in on that one. That's from Team America. That was it. But and there we go. That's what was really funny is that Ben couldn't play himself in this. He had to play somebody else. So Michael, you were Ben in this, right? I think that's true. It's a terrible picture, but it's. This was 200th episode. There's another puppet picture in here too, isn't there? And Rick and Amanda got married. And all the people in the audience were people on the crew that had been there since day one.
All right.
So everybody that you see in the audience on that. And there was a lot to it. So this was a difficult episode to deal with. And the Ewoks, walking around with them taking him hand in hand. They're two old people, like these two very old, tiny people, and I'm walking around them. There's the puppets there. What I found a really interesting thing about talking to puppets is that I would be. You don't talk to the puppeteers who are up above. You talk directly to the puppets, and they're nodding. And then you ask them to go somewhere. So see, I'm talking directly to the puppets here, and the puppeteers are actually doing everything. Okay. But it's weird how they do that. And so again, this is technically it's difficult.
Who came up with the idea of the puppets?
Oh, I'm sure it was. I mean, the core of this episode would have been Brad, Robert, Paul, and Joe. Okay. And I don't know which one of them came up with it, but it was hysterical. And the invisible sketch and all of the things we did, which was just a love letter to the fans.
Darren,
Brad wanted to do the puppets.
Darren,
Martin,
do you remember when you saw that
addressing-
episode? Do you remember when you saw that episode, Darren?
Yeah, the 200th episode is notorious, and I remember sitting in Brad's office and having him say to me, "We're getting puppets." And that's what he wanted to do. That was the vignette that he wrote. But Martin, I wanted to ask, when you're addressing puppets on the stage, do you refer to them as Puppet Michael and Puppet Rick?
Oh, you didn't say puppet. You go, Michael, you're too far ahead. I need you to step back just a little bit because what's happening is you're blocking Amanda. And then the puppets would move where you tell them to. And you're talking to them and they're going... Like the puppeteers were so beautifully attuned to this kind of stuff. And what was really funny, I think I've told you, Michael, a number of times this story about your puppet was the one that ran out of batteries the fastest. And because the mouths were attached to a computer. And the computer would say the words, or the mouth would say the words that the computer was playing until the batteries got low in the head, and then it would just go like this. And it would freeze up, and it was terrifying to see because you thought it was having some kind of spasm or something like this. And they just go, oh, we just have to change the batteries. And I remember the first time I was actually talking to Michael, and they were running a line for me through it. And it started the line, and the mouth was moving for the line. And then it just went into that spasm, and I'm going, somebody help him!
How long did it take to film the episode?
3 days. 3 days to shoot just the puppets.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, we flew down to, Peter West and I flew down to Los Angeles to be with the puppeteers down there.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, I would like to ask something to Robert, which is being silent for a while now. And I would like to ask him what are the top 3 episodes of any Stargate show you took inspiration from to write the story of Stargate Timekeepers?
Well, one of the primary ones was, well, it's slightly cheating, but it's because it's a two-parter. The end of season 7, Lost City, because the first mission in our game, which is the demo you can play now, is kind of the events of the Battle Antarctica are the background to the story of the mission. So we imagined maybe what the other SG teams were doing while SG1 were trying to get control of the ancient technology down in the Atlantis outpost. So that's one of the primary ones. Other ones, Birthright, the one I believe, which is the first time you meet the Hacktill Resistance, is one of the big inspirations too. Because one of the main characters in our game, Attar, is a young scout in the Hacktill Resistance. So that episode, which shows you everything about the society of the Hacktill Resistance, life on Hacktill, which is the setting for the second mission in our game, as well, was super important. And another one, I don't think it's the first time you meet the UNAS, but maybe the second or third, I'm not sure, Enemy Mine. And that's one where the SG1, they kind of form an alliance or sign a treaty with the UNAS, and you get to see the UNAS society, how they interact with SGC as well. That was a big inspiration for us as well, because we've also got an UNAS character as well, Zuga, who will be appearing in season 2. So yeah, they're the top 3. We also have a time travel element in our story, but if I say which episode it's inspired that, then it's going to be a bit of a spoiler, so I'll keep quiet about that.
So maybe it's the right time that we show this intro that we're having, because it's a good way of sort of linking, the actual footage of the TV show with, where we're starting the game with. And what we did here was basically we've remade in CGI, the CGI content that you had in a series with our, to make it a bit more coherent with, what we had. But it actually looks a lot like.
It really does. I should have brought my storyboards actually, because to see that, you watched the final product of it, but they started with the storyboards that we did to give to VisFX to be able to do that. But you guys have recreated perfectly that fight.
Let's take a look.
Yes.
Hostiles, 12 o'clock and 6 miles. Headed for the scout ship. You heard the general. Fire at will. Target down. They're not turning. Hold your course. Another outcast down. Keep it up. This is McCain. I'm hit. My left engine is out. Losing altitude. I can't. Watch out, McCain. McCain.
So when you boot up the game, that's the demo. That's what you get. Your first impact with the game.
The first scene. Yeah,
Brilliant.
we decided to took like original footage from the series, like MGM sent us over. We recreated because we wanted to start with a huge emotional impact. Probably like all Stargate fans would recognize immediately, and we decided then to, let's say, created our little backstory with Eva crashing on the ground, and then of course from today you can discover what's happening next playing the demo, which is on Steam. And if you like the demo so much, you can already pre-order also the game, and so you can be the first one to play on 12th December then when the game will be out.
Yeah. Darren, what do you think when you see this video? Is there a kind of what's your thinking about when you see these things?
It's so cool. Honestly, it makes me want to play the game more than I did before, because Lost City is my favorite episode of the show. Martin directed it, and this is the Battle of Antarctica is such a seminal moment for the series, not just because of what's going on in orbit with Anubis attacking Earth, but we revisit this moment later in the show as well. This Ben Browder's character, Colonel Mitchell, was also an F-302 pilot in this same battle. So to go back to it and have Eva McCain now also be one of those characters who was part of this moment. It's a great place to start the story.
We look forward to see the comments of the players as well, which is it's mostly one of the most exciting things when when you do games is like I guess the same with you, like you want to see what fans think about the next thing
Absolutely.
you're doing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And what was the kind of interaction you guys had with the fans back in the days? Was it because I know it's a different time? It was like there's no forum or anything, right? So what would you be looking for?
Yeah, I think what was interesting is and Michael's had more of this than anybody is the interaction that you get at conventions and all that kind of stuff when you go to cons, and the fans are there. A lot of them are dressed. A lot of them and have figured out how to do this by still framing things and watching, and building their own costumes and building their own weapons and building. And I think for me, it took me by surprise because I'd never done anything that was part of the sci-fi community before that, until we started doing that. And then even still, it was 5 or 6 years in before I realized that there were fans that really enjoyed and really loved the show that were that close to it. They could start recreating things for themselves. And I think, but again, like I said, this is a Michael question because Michael has spent a lot of time around fans and interacts with them a lot.
Michael, how did this relationship with fans evolve over time? Is it something that changed? I mean, other than getting older and such, but it's interesting, I guess.
Well, it's changed. It's changed from the perspective that what I find now with fans because they were watching.
You're breaking up.
What's amazing is the people I meet now are. Can you hear me?
We can,
Yeah, we can now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The people I meet now were children. They're adults now. They were children when they watched the show, and they're introducing their children to the show. I mean, that makes me feel incredibly old, but it's amazing to have that legacy being passed down. That we've survived that test of just being a show that was on the air and people forget it when it's off. That now here we are this many years later, and another generation is being introduced to it. That's what I just was in Czechia, and it was almost like the show was just on the air for the people that I met, which was rather incredible. So it's evolved from the standpoint of being fresh to the people watching it to now it's fresh to a whole new group of eyes, and that's kind of fascinating.
Something else, there was an evolution stage that I found was really interesting. The show was out and people were watching the show, and then the DVDs came out. And the DVDs changed so much because now they were getting behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who I was. And I mean, I'm thinking, why would you want to know who the director was? What difference does it make? It's a name. It's the person that put it together like this. But beyond that. But once the DVDs came out, suddenly I had fans, and I'm like, what are you, nuts? Why are you be fans with him? Don't be fans with me. I don't do enough to be able to generate fans. But what was funny was that the DVDs when they came out. Created a whole new fan base that were fans and they were hungry for more behind the scenes, And Darren, I think that's when you and I met was during that time. This is Amanda asking me what I want for lunch because she'd take my lunch order and then she'd go and get stuff and spin in it, and she always spat in my stuff.
I thought it was something much more like in-depth, like she's asking advice about a line in the script or something. Was it? No, that's food. That's food. Okay.
She's also wondering why Evil Kenny is standing behind her in that shot. So that's our props guy, Evil Kenny. This is the first time I get to talk to Thor, and again, talking to the puppeteers who are underneath him, and talking to Thor, and he turns and looks at you and then goes back to it. Oh look, guess what we've got here? This was from the episode you were talking about, Darren. I think one of the first times that we had these guys on set with us. this one, and help me out here, Darren. It's the show with the sun that was going to kill everybody.
Oh, Red Sky.
Yes, Red Sky.
So where's the Stargate now? Where is that Stargate now?
I honestly don't know. I don't know what happened to the Stargates because there were two of them that we had.
All right.
There's the one that was in the studio and the one that we took around.
Darren, do you know where they are?
I think that the location gate is in the hands of a museum. It might be the Mopop Museum in Seattle, I'm not sure. And then the gate on the set was carved up into pieces and auctioned. So they're in the hands of collectors.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've signed a few pieces of it, so I don't have too many high hopes for it.
That's cool. That's really cool. I wanted one for the office, but I guess we'll have to build one ourselves, right?
What was interesting to me, and we were talking about this yesterday about the things that start out as something, and Michael, this was when Momoa first showed up, and he in the runner, and he was. I had no idea how big he was until I actually met him, and then we were designing props and things like this, and I looked at the gun that they had. And I said, this isn't going to work because he's so big. And then I remember we were in the writer's room talking about what these things should be. And I quickly scribbled down on a piece of paper on the desk. I said, what if we did something that was a bit bigger like this, a little bit longer like this? And the gun that has become so famous for Jason, and Jason was the only one that could hold it because it was so front heavy. I remember Joe Flanagan used to try and pick it up, and it's like, you can't. It's only Jason that could wield that thing. And if it had been Chris Judge, it would have had a C-stand underneath his arm to hold it up. It was, that's a true story, actually. But Zat Nicotels, he just didn't want to hold him up, so he'd put something underneath him and shoot above that thing. But that gun that got designed, I was actually in the Sci-Fi Museum in Seattle, and it's sitting there, and I'm thinking, wow. And the BFB is there as well, the bomb that we created, and we first used it in Red Sky, but that's sitting in there too. And these things that we would come to me and they'd be like half designed like that, and I'd change something really quickly, and then you suddenly see that becomes this thing. And in your game too, when I'm looking at the way that they're moving and the props that they're using, I'm thinking, oh, when you have a hand in those designs from 1997, and you're thinking, wow, that's weird how that legacy starts, because it just starts as a scribble on a piece of paper. You say you don't deserve fans. You do deserve fans. Well, I think if I'd put more work into it, I would have. But it was just he's too strong. He needs something bigger than that. It's
That's.
Yesterday I was showing the game to Martin. We were discovering the first episode, and one point I told Martin, oh look, we have also between the enemies these super soldiers. Martin looking to me was like, I designed that. And I was like, okay. So there's nothing new I can tell you basically.
No, it's funny because the first super soldiers showed up, and again we had to change the costume because they had too much fighting to do. And Dan Payne, who was our big super soldier, he couldn't fight in the uniforms that we had for him. So we took pieces off of it and we had to change the helmet a little bit. But that's what became the thing. It was just a practical thing. He couldn't throw a punch, in the first costume.
So cool.
That's very cool.
Any more stuff from the communities?
Okay, I've got one for Darren, and I think he's more than a question, it's a request for a fan. This fan said, forums are so 2000s nostalgia, but so is Stargate. Have you considered creating a Discord channel for Gateward?
That's an interesting question. I have considered starting a Discord. It's mostly a matter of getting familiar with the technology and kind of needing more hands. So if somebody wants to contact me, we can talk about a Gate World Discord. I know there are Stargate Discords, but yeah, we've been running a forum since 2002 maybe, and it's over 50,000 people, but it's pretty quiet these days.
How much time are you dedicating to your Gate World site now, Darren? Is it very intense or just light now?
it comes and goes really when we have things to talk about, like Timekeepers and some of the other new licensees that are spinning up. It can be a part-time job, 10 or 20 or 30 hours a week, and then it'll go quiet for a while, and I'll set it aside. So I like the flexibility.
Okay. Hopefully, with Timekeepers, we can increase your time on the forum. So hopefully, we can deliver like big news to you every day.
Yeah, more interest, more excitement for sure.
I noticed in behind Darren, there's the Naquita bomb.
All
In
right.
the top corner
Oh,
there.
that's the bomb that we were talking about?
That's it, yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Yep.
Don't activate it, Darren. Eh? Watch out.
The Naquita generator is a 3D printed model created by a fan. SGA Gate Builder, my good buddy Martin McLean made that.
Wow.
And it's got a light that'll toggle on and off.
That's so cool.
And he's made some of these so that they'll hold phone chargers in them.
Hilarious.
Any more for Robert as well?
I've got something for Robert, of course. I've got something for Robert, this one, I liked a lot this one that came from Reddit. What were the main challenges of adapting Stargate to fit a video game narrative?
I think one of the big challenges for me when I was writing it is that a lot of episodes of Stargate SG-1 have quite broader tones and atmospheres. You have those high intensity moments, when they're fighting opponents or sneaking behind enemy lines, and then you have the quieter moments, like maybe back at the base or somewhere a more quieter place off world. And I think that's something that's really nice on the show, that kind of variety. Whereas in our game, everything that takes place, you're always up against an opponent. You're always trying to avoid being detected. There's a lot of stealth in the game. And so to try and have moments where there's like the playful banter between the characters, or moments where you might reveal a bit about the backstories or something like that, trying to find places where you can do that that's appropriate for the game, it's quite challenging. Like in the first draft, I went way overboard with like having some kind of like kind of long dialogue where they're talking about the past or something like that. And then when it came to the second draft, I was just like, they wouldn't be doing that in the middle of a mission or something. So I had to, try to trim it down to 2 or 3 lines or something like that they could have maybe said in passing. Yeah, I hope we managed to capture a little bit of that in the game. But yeah, it was a challenge. I think that was the biggest one. Apart from that, the other big challenge is just like how much lore there is in the Stargate franchise. Trying to make yourself keep yourself aware of it, and to make a story that fits with like the canonical narrative as well, because there's so many things you have to take into consideration. Hard to think of a specific. We have lots of discussions with the dev, where we've added something, or we're discussing something and someone says like, but in that episode, they did that, and okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we have to go back to the drawing board a bit. But that's kind of a challenge, but also it's great because there's lots of material that take for inspiration.
I've got one for Martin and Michael as well.
I just wanted to compliment him because he had the same problem that we had, which was always in the middle of a mission. Either Michael or Rick would look up and go, "Why are we talking so much? We're supposed to be quiet, aren't we?" And it was just, I remember, especially in other guys, in that one, it was hysterical. Michael on one part of the ship and Rick on the other part of the ship both asked the same question in the same day. It's like, aren't we supposed to be creeping around here? Why are we talking so much? What are we talking so much for? So I think, you had the same problem making the game, so that legacy continues.
One thing, Martin, and it's for Michael as well, it's that how this tone of voice, this, the way the script is written is changed over time, because it's almost starting from very serious sci-fi or sort of serious sci-fi mood and approach to being almost like comedic at in some bits and parts.
It evolved. I mean, and Michael has the biggest evolution, I think, Michael, and in your character, because Michael's character was an original character, from the movie on, and so Michael came into this having a character that he had to follow the character that was, to a certain extent, that was written for him, and that was the character he was the serious one. He was the disbeliever. He was the one that stopped things from happening. He was, and Rick was always out of control. Like from day one, Rick couldn't. He didn't want to say this line. He wanted to say this line, and he'd do it on his own. And so, as I was saying yesterday, that for Rick's character, what happened is the writers, certainly in the first season, started hearing Rick do this and started writing like that.
Okay.
And then Michael evolved over time simply because you had to, I think, Michael, because you were being set up for these lines, and it was so easy for you to react to them.
Rick, as we always said, we never knew what to expect day to day when it came to dialogue. So all you could do was go with it, and it ended up being he had a funny quip to say, and you had a funny quip to say back, and we just kind of went with it and explored. And over time, we probably got a little carried away. But it was
a great example of that, by the way. The beginning of Full Circle. You may not remember this, Michael, but it's one of my favorite times when the two of you just went off. And I let it happen, and I let it happen on 2 cameras, and we covered the whole thing. And Darren, you'll remember the beginning of Full Circle where it just, when we get past the part on Abydos, and suddenly Rick is there in the elevator, and so is Michael. And Michael starts telling him, you have to do this because they're going to attack, and you got to do this. And then Rick stops and goes, hi, how are you doing? Nice to see you.
Daniel, how you been?
Exactly. And Michael responds with, I've been good. It's been, how are you? The knees, the back, what's going on? And they just kept going on like this. There was some written, but some of it just went way off book. And we were in an elevator that's dropping 22 floors, but it was so crazy to listen to them talk. I just kept the cameras rolling. And I'm sure, well, I know some of it got used, but if you'd seen what happened that day, you'd understand what Michael had to deal with all the time, but then how fast the banter was between them. And it was wonderful to see. And Amanda joined in occasionally, and Chris couldn't, because he couldn't make jokes like that. So, but yeah.
That's really cool. Darren, one of the things that we are seeing when we started thinking about developing a game and so on was this thing that fans or like people who watched the Stargate series back in the days, sometimes they don't remember that was a light-hearted tone to the whole series, right? And I think about it and I think this was like proper sci-fi, series and thing. So, how do you, like, is the community still following in this, or is that something, an impression you always also have that, sometimes your memory of things is different from what the actual thing is, and you go back and watch it and say, well, that was really almost like a comedy at some time. So, do you watch it back and think about that?
Yeah, for me with Stargate, I never stopped watching it, right? So it doesn't fade into memory. And instead what I've done is, as we were talking about at the start of the show, I've shared it with my kids, and now I get to watch it through their eyes, and they're clicking with the sci-fi, they're clicking with the drama, but they really click with the humor. And thanks to Rick and everybody else on the cast from day one, right, and the writers writing to it, it's always been a core element of Stargate, is the humor, the quips, the not taking ourselves too seriously in the midst of situations that are deadly serious, right? Where the fate of the galaxy is at stake.
And Robert, I think that we get the same in the game sometimes, where you have moments where you can actually do things or actually act as in, create these moments of fun but within the game, right?
Yeah, for sure. Have a couple of characters. There's Max Bolton, and who's in the demo, and also a character called Sam Watson, and they have a little bit of a buddy relationship. So they're the two that tend to be quipping off each other sometimes. You'll see a little bit of that in the third mission to begin with. So yeah, we have a little bit of it, but especially I find it's like at the start of the mission, it's quite good. While the player is like easing into it, and then maybe as it gets on, maybe like tone it down a little bit when they're like maybe a little bit more stressed or serious about their strategy or something. So
We've also added some
yeah,
fun
we do get
ways to kill people in the game, right?
Yeah. You have like different, like if you have fantasy, you can like do lots of really cool and funny combination, like killing enemies, make them disappear, re-put him there. It's really fun. Like, I mean, it's one of the core parts of the game. It's really the replayability, and in terms of like different skills from the character, the fact you can play different characters, and of course, you can always do like
Can
some
be creative
fun
in
way.
how to kill people,
Yeah.
which is part
you
of the
showed me
gameplay.
that yesterday when you were demoing it.
Yeah.
It is very cool.
And I have a question for everybody.
Right.
And I need an honest answer from anybody. So, the question is, if you could turn an episode of Stargate into a game or level, what would it be? So basically, any episode you played, you directed, you watched, any of them, if you find one that you would say, oh, I would love to play a game about this episode or that specific bit of an episode or something like that.
Do you want to start, Martin?
No. I want Darren to start. Mostly because I have to remember the names of the episodes.
All right,
Okay.
But yeah, Darren, go ahead
Darren,
and you start. Sorry.
I'd love to play something that was ship-based with Stargates, especially Stargates in outer space, which we got in Atlantis. But the episode that comes to mind first this is cheating, but it's Avatar, which is the video game episode where Teal'c is stuck in the VR reality and he's fighting against the super soldier incursion. It's the video game episode, and I was also there on set watching Chris and Michael kind of get the crap beaten out of each other.
Yeah, that was a particularly fun one to do because I got to keep jumping back and forth and doing these wild transitions where something gets pulled aside and it's in one world and then you're in the other world and you're never sure which one you're in. Are you at the fire station? Are you at the hospital and that kind of stuff? That was a particularly fun one to do because of all of those things. Along those lines, then, I think Upgrades would be a good game because our heroes have these things that they're able to do that they wouldn't normally be able to do, and that would make a fun game because how suddenly your heroes are now able to, they're enhanced. And so now they're able to solve things that they wouldn't normally necessarily be able to solve, or they're faster, they're stronger, they're that kind of thing. And Upgrades is again one of the fun ones to do because of that, because we got to change it up a little bit.
Michael, what about you? Any particular episode you would have loved to play as a game or something like that?
I think Thor's Chariot, the quest parts 1 and 2, just because they contain various elements between fighting, traps, puzzles, a dragon at the end of the quest, and just mind puzzles and things like that, as well as the bad guys pursuing you. So I think those would be just natural, kind of almost like RPG kind of games. And Thor's Chariot, again, figuring out traps and puzzles and finding Thor at the end of it to find some cache of treasure or something like that, which is the point. I think those would be kind of cool.
That's interesting. Always like fighting and mind puzzle, like having lots of different stuff to do within like a single level of a video game is always like very, very fun. Yeah. And Robert?
I think it'd be really cool to do a level or a game in Stargate Command in Cheyenne Mountain. There's an episode, Foothold, where there's an alien species that takes control of Stargate Command for an episode, and the team have to, they have to like, it's kind of like they're creeping around like a familiar area, but with this strange situation. I think it'd be really cool. Fans would really love it to be able to explore Stargate Command itself. I know I would too. So yeah, I think that would be really cool. Mainly just for the environment. I think it'd be really fun.
Yeah. Can I tell you a really quick story about
go for
Stargate
it.
Command?
Yeah, go for it.
So I ended up, when we first started the show, I ended up going to Cheyenne Mountain to shoot all of the establishers. And we were there for 36 hours straight shooting. And I had a crew, and I had probably 20 extras who had no idea what the show was. And we did everything we could, and we shot everything. And so you see these same 11 guys dressed as the sentries. For the first 8 years of the show, it's all the same people. And then finally, Brad looked at me and he goes, "You got to go back to Cheyenne Mountain and get some new stuff." So I go back, and when I land, I get picked up, and they said, "Well, you have all these extras to choose from." I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, there's 200 people that want to do it, that took the time off their jobs, that are now waiting to be part of this. They established us because they're all huge fans of it." And we're in the middle of shooting a scene, and this Jeep drives up, and everybody goes, oh no, it's the Colonel. And this guy steps out with his square haircut, and he walks up and goes, "Son, come with me." And I'm like, I have to show you. I know exactly what you're doing. I've known what you were doing since you stepped off the plane, son. Come with me. And we got in his car, and we drove into the mountain. And the whole time, I'm trying to talk to him. I said, "So, do you ever watch the show?" And he's like, and he won't answer me. And I'm sweating, because this is the head of security, okay? And I'm thinking, what have I done that I didn't? And Michael, have I ever told you this story?
I think you have, but it's been a while, so I'm happy to hear it again.
We're driving this 2 kilometers into the mountain, and I'm sweating, and I'm going, what is this about? And I keep trying to talk to him. I was here before. He goes, "I didn't know you were here." And I'm like, okay, all right, we're not talking, guys. We get out, come with me. We start walking. We walk through, and it's Atco trailers all stacked up on top of each other. It doesn't look as cool as our stuff. We go inside, and we walk down this one hallway, and he stops. And I stop. And I expect he's going to say something to me, and he just stands there looking at this door. And I look at the door. And it goes, SG-1, and it has an arrow going down. And I went, and he goes, "That's right. I put a sign," and I opens it up, "Broom closet." Because everybody that comes through here now wants to know how you get, every person that comes into this place wants to know where SG-1 is. So now I point to this thing and I tell him. And I'm like, oh, and I still think he's mad at me. And he goes, "I'm a huge fan of the show. I love it. I think I scared the hell out of you, didn't I, son?" And I'm like, yeah. He goes, "I can't wait until we get to see some new stuff from you guys. I love this show." I'm like, wow.
So the first time we went there for 36 hours. The second time?
The second time we were only there for 12 hours.
Okay.
So I just needed to shoot day and night. But yeah, it was so much easier the second time.
Did he make the shooting, or the Colonel?
He was in it.
He was in it.
Yeah,
Okay.
very definitely he was in it.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so.
What we have here. Okay, I have one for Martin. I got this one that seems to be really interesting. Which underdeveloped Stargate plotline or character would you like to see deepened?
If you'd asked me before Atlantis started, it would have been Hewlett's character, because I loved McKay. But then we literally got a series about it, that deepened it. I think, help me out here, Darren. The guy that had the Stargate built in his basement that kidnapped Amanda.
Orlin?
Orlin, yeah.
Orlin.
Yeah. The Orlin character, I really liked the Orlin character, and would have liked to have seen much more about Orlin, I think. Okay. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, Darren, that you'd want to see more of Orlan?
Yeah, because he was an ascended being, which we eventually learned on the show was the Ancients, the builders of the Stargates. And they did bring Orlan back in season 9 with the Fourth Horseman, but they couldn't get Sean Patrick Flannery back. So they sort of retooled the character as the younger version, played by Cameron Bright. He was a kid Orlan.
Right.
Okay, I got another one, always for Martin. That is, you've directed a lot of Hallmark movies these last 5 years. What is the most surprising aspect in common with directing an episode of Stargate SG-1 and directing a Hallmark movie? What did you take over from your time with the Stargate team to your current works?
Wow. There is absolutely nothing the same except the technical placing of cameras and things like that. And it's not derogatory. I'm saying that Stargate was very much its own creature in the way that I shot it. Even moving into Atlantis, I did the same way so that it would look like the franchise still. When I moved into Sanctuary and Primeval and into Travelers and a bunch of other things that we did do, Dark Matter, all these different ones, Killjoys. When I do sci-fi, I would change things that I'd done. Hallmark tends to have a narrative style that requires you to do it a different way. 1, no bombs. 2, no guns. 3, no drinking, no smoking. You know, and quite honestly, it changes the way that you direct. So there wasn't a lot of the style that I took when I was doing action and doing adventure into a Hallmark movie, although I try and bring stuff like that into it. And recently, I've started using something, I think I was telling you, Marco, that I've started using a light wall volume for a lot of the stuff I'm doing. And Michael, I showed you that video of the light wall that I was using for car driving and stuff like that. That changes a lot. And if there was another iteration of Stargate, that would make it an entirely different show. That is something I started experimenting with in a Hallmark show. And I think when you say Hallmark, it's romantic comedies, because I've done lots with Netflix and with CBS as well, or you know, those type of things. But again, all of them are the same with that. So the new technology that's coming out allows you to do a lot with it. Would allow you to go light years ahead with Stargate, because it's just a completely different tool than a green screen and things like that. And we could make much more fantastic worlds, much more. So every world wouldn't have cedar trees on it, Michael, that we went to. So, but I mean, it would change things. Yeah.
You'd probably end up having CGI cedar trees because community wants to see them. So
yeah, it would be too far away from the canon. Yeah.
And I think on a you know, to sum it up, and I think it's good to sort of you know, bridge it to, you know, the future and such. And we were talking about you know, what other studios are doing to, you know, evolve this you know, narrative systems and so on. What would you expect from, you know, a new future, you know, Stargate? You know, there's just talks. There's always talks about it, I guess. You know, they never ended. But what would you expect? And I'd like to ask the same question to Darren and Michael too, I guess.
I think what I would hope is that they would respect the canon and respect the Stargate community is built on a love of what has been, and it is very possible to evolve that. Atlantis did it, Universe did it. Without throwing a whole bunch of new magic in, I mean, Stargate has always been very physics-based in a lot of the stuff they've done. And a lot of that is the writers have always, you know, done this, and Brad especially is one that tends to ground things. I like the idea of the next iteration of Stargate being able to reference the past or the future or whatever it's going to be, you know, and respect the fact that there was a movie before, which we were never able to sort of say didn't exist, you know. And in the series Atlantis, you had to respect what SG-1 set up. universe had to respect what Atlantis and SG-1 set up and the movie, and I think that would be what I'd say, is that need for respect in whatever the next iteration is. And it can be wild, it can be a crazy change as long as you keep referencing that canon.
Darren?
Yeah, my answer is exactly the same, which is whatever comes next for Stargate, I hope that it is existing in the universe that so many of us know and love, because that adds what Martin's describing. It adds a texture to the show, to the franchise, and to my enjoyment of it, to know, right, this character is being brought back from 3 years ago, or this plot line is being nudged a little bit further down the road. The Stargate itself is a brilliant concept for storytelling, but what millions of people around the world have fallen in love with over the last 29 years since the feature film came out is the characters, right? We love the gate, we love the concept, but the characters, we bring them into our living rooms and we feel like we're a part of this world. So that's what I want to see. I want to see some iteration, even if it's in the future, even if some of the characters have moved on, even if we only get to see Daniel pop in once a season. I want that world to continue because I love it so much.
Michael, is it something, I mean, we keep seeing actors going back to their, stuff they made on the 80s and the 90s and such. What's your view on this? What would you expect from the future Stargate?
Well, I'm ditto on the respect for the original franchise. I certainly would have no problem going back to those roots because it's a fun place to be. It's a great what if adventure that is still filled with infinite possibilities, and we have such great new technology in the filmmaking world. I'm so curious to see what we could do, what Martin could do with the new technology, and the possibilities are endless. So I'd love to see it, but I would love to see the canon respected. All of us are going to be a little bit long in the tooth and whatever, but I think that the group is still ready and willing to do some adventures, even in a recurring kind of capacity. But as long as the original canon is respected, then I'm just curious. I want them to damn well do it, because I'm curious to see what it would look like through a modern lens.
Just so you know, Michael, the new cameras have tooth shortening filters for those of us that are long in the tooth. So the filter itself takes care of it. It's amazing. It's digital. It's great.
So whilst we hope about the future, there's a little bit of a present. So the present today is we've got the demo out. So I guess for the fans, for the moment, it's time to dive into the Stargate Timekeepers demo. It's available now on Steam. You can download it. And first, which we call it, we don't call it a demo. We call it episode 1. Mm-hmm. The game is made of 14 episodes.
14 episodes.
The first 7 episodes are releasing on the 12th of December.
Yep.
So this is going to be our, your staggered release of discovering what the new world of Stargate will look like, and the world we imagined and Robert imagined. That's our promise that we keep loving what we do, and we definitely tried to respect the canon.
You did, and my son was playing it yesterday. I had to actually pull him away from it. So thank you for letting him try it.
That's good. I can earn my salary, so at least one is there playing. Jokes aside, as Marco was saying, demo is out. If you love the franchise, I think like the game, it's fun. I think like Robert did a great job recreating those like original atmosphere, and play it, let us know what you think about it. If you like it so much, pre-order it and then wait until the 12th of December to discover the next 6 episodes that we have.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for jumping on this morning, Michael. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, guys.
You're Amanda's replacement, but you did a great job, Michael. Thanks for saving us, once again.
Once again.
For saving the planet once again.
Darren, email me again. I will answer you this time, I promise. I have time right now.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for following us. Thank you for staying with us for this show. And I'll see you on Steam to play the game.
Nice to meet you, Robert. Yeah.
I'll see you. I guess that we'll play the video once again.
Yeah, it was so cool. Let's roll it up again. Thank you.
Thanks.
The attraction towards new experiences is powerful. Alienware gear isn't made to resist that pull. It's made to accelerate it, to transport you to new places where you can embrace difference and leave familiar behind, bringing you ever closer to the ultimate experience. See you on the other side.